Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to kick off right now for the next session. The next session this afternoon, we're making our way through a great second day here at the MENA ICT Forum. And hopefully you're enjoying it. Are you enjoying yourselves? I'll take that as a yes. I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. We all are. And I'm sure everybody else is who's joining us live stream from wherever you are around the world. Now, wherever you are, it will be fantastic if you, yes you, I'm looking at you at the camera there, wherever you are, you can just put in a comment and just let us know where you are. We would love, wouldn't we? We would love to know where everybody else is joining us right here in Jordan, in Armaz. Put a few comments down. Tell us how much you're loving the show as well, as much as we are here. And then we can get cracking on to the next session. Right, so we move on now to smart cities. What are smart cities all about? I'm sure you know lots about smart cities, but what we're going to do now is have a panel discussion, really going a little bit more deeper into what it really means for the citizens, and also examples and experiences of the panelists as well. Now, the gentleman who's going to moderate this panel, who's going to moderate this healthy and productive panel as well, is a gentleman who has lots of experience, certainly in terms of smart cities over there in Dubai. Please welcome to the stage Senior Excellence and Quality Specialist from the Smart Dubai government, Mr. Sulaiman Al-Dabas.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great opportunity being here and participating at the MENA ICT Forum. Our topic, as you see, smart cities. We all agreed that cities are centers of innovation and creativity, but cities faces great challenges such as rapid adaptation, climate change, and increased in request of services, city services like transportation and healthcare. To address the challenges and capitalize on opportunities, cities are encouraged to become smart cities. However, the term smart cities is abroad and there is no agreed definition of a smart city and consensus on how cities should approach the agenda. A number of smart cities definitions exist. Some have a broad focus, while others focus on technology, focus on data and citizens. For example, BSI defines smart cities as the effective integration of physical and digital and human systems in a built environment to deliver sustainable, prosperous, and inclusive future of its citizens. Other definition is Cisco defines the term of cities. The smart cities is the cities that adopt scalable solutions that take advantage from ICTs to increase efficiency and reduce cost and enhance quality of life. But the simplest definition, and my favorite, is smart city, the cities that uses technology to make life easier for its citizens. So it's about citizens, about experience, and about creating a happy life. Nowadays, smart cities initiatives will attract technology investment to invest of more than 81 billion US dollar in 2018 globally. And spending is set to be growth to 158 billion in 2022. This numbers according to the last release of IDC Worldwide Semi-Annual Smart Cities Spending Guide. Now let's take Dubai as a leading smart city example from our region. Actually, UAE in general ranked 6th globally in the Global Smart Services Index, and this the same rank of Sweden, and ahead of Spain, ahead of Germany, Canada, and Netherlands. So let me take you through this short video about Smart City, Smart Dubai journey, and sample of its initiatives.
Dubai is one of the world's leading smart cities. But what does that mean? A city becomes smart by using data and technology to anticipate and respond to your needs so that you can spend more time on what really matters. At Smart Dubai, we're focused on citywide innovation that makes your life easier. We created Dubai Now so that you can access all the city services you need through one app. Here, you can pay your bills and fines, pay for fuel, register your car, track flights, and much, much more. Dubai Careers was developed by Smart Dubai to connect amazing talent with incredible roles in an efficient and unique way. You can explore hundreds of jobs in English and Arabic, and even record interview responses remotely and offline before the employer receives them. Together, we're committed to becoming an environmentally sustainable government. At Smart Dubai, we've launched our paperless strategy to be completely paper-free by 2021. This saves us all hundreds of hours and trees in paper transactions. Every day, Smart Dubai is transforming city experiences by collaborating with our partners and working with emerging technology such as blockchain and AI. Using the power of technology today, we're creating a happier tomorrow. Smart Dubai, inspiring new realities.
Thank you. It's time to welcome our panelists. Please welcome with me Mr. Chris Davids, Vice President, Smart Cities, Sycon Lighting. Mr. Yusuf Al-Khalili, General Manager, Head of Smart Cities and Smart Government Practice, NXN. Mr. Fadi Shana'a, Regional Director, Business Development, Smart Cities and Healthcare, Orange Business Services. And me, Sulaiman Dabbas, Senior Excellence and Quality Specialist from Smart Dubai Government. Welcome. Yeah. You have your mics ready to start our discussion?
We promise we won't embarrass you.
Okay.
Maybe.
But before we start,
yes.
guys, you notice something different here. One of us is different.
Yeah.
Guesses?
We all have here.
في غزارة في الإنتاج وسوء في التوزيع.
I can thank my grandmother for that.
I was just joking with Chris before. I don't think he fits.
I don't actually. Yusuf raises a very good point, and when you look at smart cities, you're going to hear a lot about technology, but at the end of the day, it's all about the power of the human network and collaboration across multiple disciplines. And Fadi and I, we know each other from a previous life, so go figure that one out.
But the surprise is I have the shaver. Guys, can you bring the shaver?
Let's start our discussion.
Please.
Chris, Please describe some of the most unusual, interesting smart city use cases you have been or you have seen.
Okay, so when you look at smart cities, it's all about producing outcomes. It's all about somehow gathering data from the outside world and making lives better for citizens and workers in the cities, you know, improving the quality of life, whatever. So one of the most interesting applications I came across, we're working with Inmarsat, the satellite communications company. And we did a pilot with them in Rwanda, so Africa. And the lights that they put in new LED lighting, we provided the controls and the lighting infrastructure, the network, and the software. And one of the most interesting applications that came out of it was homework. So when I say homework, what would that actually mean? Anybody have any ideas? Homework, students' homework. All right, so the pilot involved putting in some smart street lights in Kigali, the capital, and then also along a rural highway. And what they learned is that the students, the families that live along these highways, they don't have electricity. And so the students would do their homework at night in their house, typically with a gas lantern or candles. When they put in the LED lights, it could be controlled. They actually were able to control the level of illumination. So the children, imagine this, bring their books, a little table, chairs, whatever, and they sit out and they do their homework under the street light where they have really good high quality lighting. So think about the educational and economic possibilities for that child, that family, that village, because they can do a better job of homework. So I thought that was pretty cool. But wait, there's more. Inmarsat, satellite communication. So what they also did was install satellite communication-based Wi-Fi access points on streetlight poles so that the children and the villages would have internet access. So digital equity. So I think that's a really cool use case. The second one, which is kind of interesting, is zombies. So we were talking to a city in New York, and the mayor got the smart and connected streetlights and all the good stuff about that, and he said, well, I've got a zombie problem. I have 1,000 zombies in town. So everybody's looking at him. We thought he was on drugs. We didn't know what he was talking about. So a zombie is an unpowered vacant building, and they sometimes are vandalized, or homeless people live in them, and they catch on fire. So there was no traditional way to monitor the building and have quick response from the fire department or the first responders if there was a fire. And first of all, keep that building from burning down, but also having adjacent properties being damaged by the fire. So on the lighting control network, and the same network that runs their smart meters, electric, water, and gas, we're in the process of helping them develop a battery-powered wireless smoke alarm fire detector that will alert the fire department that this building is caught on fire, because again, they don't have any power. So to me, those were two of the most interesting use cases, from homework to zombies. So,
Perfect. Yusuf, cities around the world are creating, developing smart city strategies, and we all agree that strategy is a main key for smart transportation. So, from your opinion and experience, what's the main pillar of successful smart city strategy? Or how smart city strategy look like?
So when you do a smart city strategy, you need to think of a holistic approach for the city. A city is a living organism. There are multiple dimensions for a smart city. So livability is one dimension. Transportation, environment, energy, education, health. So the way most definitions of smart cities are, it's a city that's empowered by complex IT systems that are integrated, and data is essential to bring this to life. Now, the UN defines this, and everybody in the EU Parliament defines those cities with those 6 dimensions. Most common focus areas for cities are smart living and smart people. Because if you focus on the experience of people within the city, then you get out of that most benefits for the city.
Great. Fine.
If I could add to that, if you look at each city, they're all different. They have their unique opportunities and they have their own specific challenges. And so the trick is to try to figure out what are the goals and objectives of each city and try to go after those. And I live in the metro Boston area. About 2 years ago, the city of Boston, they put out an RFI and they were looking for really good ideas on how to make the city smart. But they said, we don't want a proposal, we just want responses that are less than 10 pages. And they said, these responses that you provide have to conform to our 2040 strategic plan. So it's really important to start out, if you want to become smart, his points are well taken, but you've got to start out with a plan and what are the objectives, and then try to fill that in. The city of Boston got back over 150 responses. Some of the ideas were great, some were crazy, but it didn't matter. But they all tried to fit into what are the city's long-term goals to make it a better place to live and work. It's quality of life. It's all what it's all about.
So we approach this from a master planning exercise.
Yeah.
So you do a full master plan for the city, where you build the vision, the priorities, and then you do a current state assessment, then a future imagination of what the city should look like, and then you do a gap analysis. Now, in the gap analysis is very important because you find out where you aspire to go versus where you are today, and then you build a transformational roadmap. Most cities build transformational roadmaps that are 3 to 5 years. Some cities even aspire to 10 to 15 years. So master planning a smart city transformation engagement is key. And we've seen, to your point, Chris, how some cities approach it from a pure technical or infrastructure point of view, and they fail. We're going to speak later about the data, but the data plays a major aspect in how you bring this value and you connect those complex systems and make them interconnected so they can serve the purposes of the transformation.
Fadi, Yusuf, you mentioned something about smart people, and I'm sure increased awareness is embedded in any smart city strategy to increase adoption for online channels and smart services. Fadi, I would like to ask you about innovation. How innovation important for smart city programs, and also what's the role that startups will play in this?
Thanks. Well, I think, to answer this question, if you look at, if you go to any of those now industry forums and you count the amount of startups and innovation companies that new companies coming to the thing, it's massive, right, globally. And innovation is a key, I would say, driver for smart city. It is part of the framework. Any smart city strategy, and taking the Dubai example, of course, on that, focusing on the innovation part, creating this innovation environment to attract entrepreneurs and new ideas, and facilitate this with all the tools required, creating the test bed environment for them to come and try their innovation is a key, I would say, focus of the strategy in Dubai that made the success. One good example on that actually is something that we've been honored also to be a part of it together with Smart Dubai and other partners in Dubai, is the Smart City Accelerator program in Dubai, which has been created for the first time to give an opportunity for all those innovation companies and startups globally to participate in this competition for an acceleration program. And we're running it now for the second round, where we had in each round more than 1,000 applications globally from all over the globe. And the result is, I'm part of the mentoring session, so the result you see there, yeah, please.
Sorry for interrupting. Another example is Dubai Blockchain Challenge.
Exactly. I mean, there are many examples in Dubai when it comes to this kind of innovation programs. But talking specifically about smart city specific program, this was one of the things that I've experienced personally, and the result of the first round is a 10 very promising 10 companies that has been hosted for 6 months in the program, where it was not just providing for them the support or the access to investors and everything, but it's creating this test bed environment and opportunity to test their technology within government entities and deploy their proof of concept. And actually, then companies, big companies and international companies and system integrators like ourselves, for example, in Orange, we have been then partnering with a few of them into creating solutions, adding this to our portfolio of services that we offer to the market. So to answer the question is innovation must be considered as one important aspect when you design a smart city strategy for any country, and without this you don't actually guarantee the continuity of the smart city. Smart city is not a box you deliver. It's a living framework that you create in any city that enable the city to keep evolve and develop and introduce new ideas in the right structure.
Could I add another element
Yes,
to that?
please.
We've talked about the value of data, and so what you're finding in many cities is that they will have what's called an open data portal. So all the data that they gather is publicly available, and you find in many cities, Kansas City's one, where they have encouraged young companies, startups, to do whatever they can with that data to develop new apps. So it's a really good way to provide value-added services to the citizens and the city itself by taking advantage of the legacy or the new data that's already there.
Definitely, this is very important. I think Yusuf
We are
can talk
coming
more
to that,
talk more about it. For the Dubai data strategy is one of the interesting stories that has been created there.
So the
We will come to data. We have a point. Chris, my question for you now. Cities officials and utilities planning to implement smart cities applications, and they have to make choices regarding which networking solutions or technologies that best suited for smart services. My question is, what are the major factors that to be considered in networking selection?
Okay, this is a very complex question, and there's no one right answer. But I think if you think about smart cities, we've talked about the value of data. It all goes back in many ways to instrumenting that physical world, these assets that are outside, street lights, traffic signals, fire hydrants, EV charging stations, and gathering little bits of data so first of all, you can know what's going on, and then second of all, how can I better manage or operate? And so if you look at these assets, I kind of divide them into two classes. The first I would classify as mission critical, and then the second I would classify as maybe more business beneficial. So mission critical applications could be intelligent transportation systems, could be street lighting, could be monitoring critical infrastructure. Another one would be storm and floodwater control, for example. And then those that are more on the business beneficial side could be public Wi-Fi, rodent control, waste management, things like that. So if you look at all these assets, they're always remote, they're always outdoors. They all involve data, and no one network is going to satisfy the requirements for all of them. So you sort of have to divide them and look into what are the characteristics of each. So if you look at the networks for mission critical, they're typically purpose-built. They have to be really reliable. SLAs of 5 nines for sure. Data assurance or information assurance is absolutely required. So those types of networks, which are often fixed and purpose-built are not, the cost is important, but it's not the primary consideration, it's really the delivery. And then if you look at the business beneficial side, these are ones where the data, it'd be nice to have, but if you miss getting a little data from what the energy consumption is of a street light, I mean, who cares? Basically, they're often on shared networks, so you'll find that the companies like Cisco that deploy wireless networks across city infrastructures, they'll sometimes control street lights, they'll do electric, water, gas meters. So in these type of applications, the primary consideration is the total cost of ownership. But in both cases, they have to be, easily deployed, operate, and then operate for a long period of time. And then there's this whole argument of, is it, licensed spectrum, cellular, or the unlicensed spectrum, which is point-to-point or wireless mesh networks. So those are kind of the high-level views.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the topic of connectivity is one important aspect of the enabler, I would say, prospect for smart cities, because this is where you collect the data and transport it, actually. And the selection of this is, today, with today's technologies, connectivity, we have multiple options. Yes, I know for some reasons, telcos will push into one direction for connectivity or the others, but thanks to technology and talking about topics like the LP1 and different technologies now coming to the market, that enables actually to provide economical and fit for the purpose solutions when it comes to connecting sensors and collecting data for smart cities.
Let's go more in details in this data and IoT. Yusuf and Fad, you start with Yusuf. What the role will play data and IT in smart cities?
So data is the fuel. So if you think of the city as an engine, data is the fuel. And the challenge with data, it's coming from very old, complex systems that are not interlinked. This is the main challenge today. If you think of structured data versus non-structured data, data coming from under the floor, under the ground, to data above, it's a problem. It's a challenge today. And the fact of gathering the data and then classifying the data, which data is shared, which data is open.
Okay.
How to
different
share
sectors, public, private, non-profit organization, gathering this data from.
and sensitive, secret, high national interest. This is the challenge today, and the work that cities that have succeeded in the transformation have worked on data first. So the example of Dubai is a very good example where
We don't want to talk more.
Where-
Let's give other examples, not to say.
I'm gonna touch few cities in the region. So
Great.
Dubai did a very good framework of data classification and laws and regulations and standards of managing the data. And this is now in the backbone of the whole transformation process.
Yes.
Because any service provider, whether it's government or private sector, needs to refer back to the guidelines of which data to use. If you think of transport data, today the Road and Transport Authority publishes data because they know they can publish this data. Before they couldn't, and a lot of entrepreneurs are now building applications on top of that. 3D GIS data for the city is also being published, and applications are built on top. If we think of examples in Boston, in New York, in London, very successful implementations of gathering, classifying, and regulating data. The data needs to be also hosted on a platform.
Yes.
We call it a big data lake or a big data platform, and this is also something very essential for cities to understand, because innovation will not happen without the fact that there's a platform with a big data approach and with a regulation around which data to collect, how to collect it, how to secure the privacy. The privacy of data was and continues to be a big topic in big cities around the world. Dubai was no different when we worked on the Dubai data law and Dubai data standards for the privacy. We had to consult with the private sector. Obviously, big companies like Google, Facebook, and others came to say, okay, what data can we share? What data can't we share? What is this law? What are we obliged to do? Big topics that you cannot work alone as a small city in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
You have to work with a big consortium of organizations and governance. So yeah, if I would choose one thing to do right before you do anything in a city, is understand your data and govern your data.
Great, thanks, Yusuf. Fadi, the same topic, data, IoT, and data life cycle.
Yeah. Well, I think, I totally agree with Yusuf. So the data is, for me, it is the topic. When you talk about smart services, smart city, it's all about the data. So big data, IoT, AI, blockchain, everything you have named from those buzzwords, it's about dealing with data, right? So data is the most sensitive and important topic that you deal with in any smart city strategy. And that's why referring to an examples where they have taken this in a very serious manner by building a strategy and law even has been communicated before they start opening the data to the public. This is the right approach, and this is exactly why innovation and entrepreneurs are coming to Dubai as an example because of the open data environment and availability for the data. Now, the important topic is also talking about who are the stakeholders and how can. And is it only the government responsibility to think about the data strategy? What are the other players that can support? And what's the role of the telco, for example, in this equation? Because, of course, I'm coming from a telco company, but the thing is, telecom is one of the main, I would say, stakeholders in any smart city initiative. You cannot actually think about a smart city strategy and initiative without considering the telecom. This is where connectivity starts. Initially we link smartness to connectivity. If you're connected, you can gather the data and everything. So it's basically dealing with the data life cycle. So from the moment that data is generated to the transportation of the data, connectivity we talked about, the different methods of connectivity, how to store and compute the data, how to secure the data, which is a very important topic also, the security of the data, and finally, how to do all this analytics and using tools and cognitive service and everything into creating a meaningful actions and information from this data. This is the whole smart city, I would say, concept is about the data journey. This is actually what we also believe in Orange, that the data journey is the key, and providing services in the value chain of this data journey from the moment, as I said, created up to creating an action out of this data, meaningful action, is the key element for a successful smart city.
Thanks, Fadi. Yes.
I think one thing that's also important is that there's all types of data that you find in a city. You have city coming from the sensors and the instruments and controls that are in the outside world. You have public data sources, and then you have the city legacy IT systems. So a lot of the value comes from the platforms that we're talking about and the ability to integrate different data sources of different latencies to figure out what's going on. So for example, if you have environmental air quality sensors that are hung out on a streetlight pole 3 meters above the ground, that data is somewhat real time. It'd be nice to be able to correlate that to weather data and traffic to try to figure out, okay, where is this pollution coming from and what can I do to make the air quality better? So you've got to think of, as we said earlier, platform and holistically thinking.
And as you think of that, this is real examples, guys, we had to go through with customers. As you build those big data lakes, the big challenge will be to merge the structured and the unstructured data and how to make them come together for the benefit of the use cases and the services. Big projects we've been through where we've ingested real structured and unstructured data into very robust platforms still resulted in very slow pace of ingestion, because as you do the data model and the metadata and the hierarchy and the architecture, it's actually very complex work. And many people think that it's the approach of having a database or a data warehouse in the old days. That's okay. That's where you take the data from for those IT systems. But what happens to this other data you get from the sensors? What happens to other data you get from social networks, for instance, where it's essential to have the sentiments or to build certain directions for services? That's science by itself.
Great. Chris, smart and connecting lighting is one of the first application to become smart city. Please explain us how smart and connecting lighting infrastructure facilitate and enable the implementation of other outdoor smart cities applications.
Happy to do that. So if you look at most cities, about 40% of their electricity energy spend is lighting. Sometimes it's higher, and it of course depends on the tariffs that the utility charges. So the simple mathematics go like this. If you convert your old lights to LEDs, you save about 50% on the energy spend. And then if you add smart controls where you can dim and brighten, cities, depending upon how aggressive they are, can save another 10 to 30%. So
in total, saved is around 65%.
Yeah, so say 50 to 60%. So that's pretty significant. So there's a real ROI there. Although energy is important, I think there's a bigger aspect, and that's if I put smart controls on outdoor lighting, I have ongoing, continuous health and diagnostics of that asset. So if there's a problem with the luminaire or the controls or the network that the lighting controllers run on, I get real-time alarms and alerts, and the systems, the software can generate work orders so that the malfunction can be repaired in one truck roll. And what happens is that in most cases, if there's a problem with an outdoor city asset, it could be a street light, could be a traffic signal, it generally takes about 2.6 truck rolls for the thing to be fixed. One is to discover it. The New York City Department of Transportation, they hire contractors that drive every street in New York looking for malfunctioning street lights, those that are not burning at night and those that are burning during the daytime, twice a month. So you can imagine what that costs. So, and then the second one is I'm going to go fix it. Oh, I don't have the right parts or the right tools. And then the third is, okay, I got it fixed the third time. So it's 2.6. Then sometimes you have to have a traffic detail there to direct traffic around. So it's very expensive. So there's a real ROI there. And then once you have this smart and connected smart infrastructure in place, you can use the power coming from the pole and the control, edge computing, and the controls that can be added to that pole to do other smart city services. So almost every smart city RFQ we see, and we looked at the one from Abu Dhabi municipality, we're working with partners on that. Everyone said we want the smart and connected lighting to be the first step, and we want to be able to build other smart city applications on it.
Good.
And a good approach for that would be public-private partnership.
Oh yeah, funding's in there.
So,
Coming at this point.
for that specifically, the bill for a certain city nearby is around 70 million dirhams. Well, I said the city shit. 15 million JDs per month. And just replacing the smart poles with smart lighting systems like you just mentioned, it will pay back within 7 years. And then after that, it's all savings. And they will also provide the same poles. They will also provide, there'll be sensors, obviously, for traffic
Yes.
measuring the traffic congestion. They will also be good to report accidents. They will do whether a LoRa or a Wi-Fi kind of a network
Many
for the whole
features,
city.
many benefits. Okay.
So it's a no-brainer. I really don't understand why wouldn't mayors just simply do this? Like, why don't they go out, get those kind of contracts in place, do a PPP where then a revenue generation model can be established. So because of the network you can do on those highways, you can actually collaborate with the service providers to sell those concessions. And you will not pay anything, they will make money and you will share the money, right?
Yes.
Sometimes I'm surprised why it's good to have this smart, the whole master planning exercise with a roadmap, but there are some quick wins that I'm puzzled when I don't see that companies are coming to governments saying, we're willing to come in, you don't have to pay a penny, we'll replace all your lighting systems, all your smart poles, in many cases even road infrastructure, in many cases even, so different pieces of the city, and we will do it on a PPP, and we have to share then the revenue or the reduction of the cost. Still, people are not moving, and in many cases, by the way, the only reason is there's no PPP law. As simple as that. There's no regulation that helps such projects.
True.
Even the ROI is guaranteed in these cases, but
Yeah, I mean, the 7-year payback is very realistic, and so everybody's hearing about 5G, right? And
Yeah.
that's going to mean a lot of cells, and so many of the utilities in North America, if they own the poles, or the city owns the poles, they can charge up to $2,000 a year to have somebody put a small cell, either a 4G or 5C cell on that pole to increase coverage.
True.
So there's a revenue opportunity, and you're absolutely right. Many cities today are saying, just bring it on, we'll give you our assets, we don't want to pay anything, and if you make money, let's share the revenue later. Happens all the time.
Or the reduction of cost. Speaking of the fact that people go out and I'll tell you a joke about a big mall in one of those big cities around you, where we went to work on a cost reduction of their energy bill. They pay a lot per month. They're one of the biggest malls in the region. And you would think that they will adjust the power, the AC, based on the footfall, right? Because when the mall is empty, you wouldn't need. And you would also think that they have sensors to measure people coming in and out of the mall. Today, the sensors exist, but they don't use this data because it's not integrated, obviously, with the systems that control the buildings. So they have to actually guess how many people are there. With historical data they have, they kind of know that it's weekend, so 1 million people will pop in and whatever. But it takes actually an hour to adjust the AC, the temperature within the mall, from the minute you flick the switch. So you can actually toast hundreds of thousands of people for an hour, although you have actually taken the action. And it's all because there's no integration between the systems that we spoke about. In another example, if a pump went wrong in a tower, in those famous towers in the Gulf, it takes in some towers which is more than 50-60 floors, it takes half an hour to reach and fix the pump. So if you don't have the right sensors with prediction, you cannot anticipate those malfunctions. So this is all available today. The systems are there. I just don't understand why the will is not there to do this automation with minimal costs and then get those reductions. In some of the services we've installed, we've seen up to 30% reduction immediately from the next month we've implemented those services and those sensors. And customers are saying, wow, we should have done this a long time ago. It's a mental resistance. I think people don't understand yet that there are quick wins they can go and do immediately. What's stopping? We're in Amman. And I want us to spend some time at the end of this session to really discuss some of those barriers that are stopping Amman. I know people are laughing, but Why can't the mayor go and replace the lights today? Why can't we
Yes.
include a certain transport sensors on lampposts where people can be alerted on traffic and avoid this traffic, or a planner, a journey planner? I was here in the summer, and it was very congested. But now I came, and it's not summer anymore, and still congested. So I'm just thinking, what's happening? Is it always like there, and can we really avoid it? These are some quick wins. People can do something about it.
Right, you are totally right. Okay, Fadi, a very important topic is healthcare. Today's healthcare system has recognized the importance of ICT to improve the quality of healthcare services, turning healthcare from traditional to smart healthcare. So, what's the smart health, and how people can benefit from smart healthcare?
Thank you. So yeah, I mean, healthcare is one of the most important, I would say, verticals when it comes to governments and to people, right? So the whole social infrastructure, education, healthcare, those are key elements in the system. So, and it's also impacting the citizens' happiness. I mean, if you don't have a proper healthcare system, proper healthcare services, you don't have happy citizens. Technology definitely can play a major role in terms of like creating an impact on how we deliver healthcare to citizens. And I agree with Yusuf. I mean, taking also the same question is that people, they have this misperception that introducing smart city or smart services into any vertical means that you need to make a huge investment. In many cases, actually, with a small investment, you can make a major impact. Most of the technology that we have now is smart. I mean, look at the buildings. You have security systems, you have BMS, you have lighting. They're all smart as systems, but they don't talk to each other. And this is what's missing. So basically, it is the how you make those systems talk to each other. You have a common language, you unify the language, you have the data exchange between them, and you have algorithms to make decisions on behalf of humans, to take quick actions sometimes. So in healthcare is the same. Healthcare for many years and until today actually, because of there are some human I would say aspects to it. Doctors, they don't like technology a lot, so this is one of the things. And when it comes to how we deliver healthcare system, you see a lot of like facilities now where they're still using like paperwork and very long procedures of dealing with patients and everything, where they have the technology within softwares and everything in-house, but they don't want to use it. So there's in any change management program, there's one aspect is important. Forget about technology, even in a smart city. Yeah. There's the human aspect. It's a change management. So you need to deal with the skills, people, change management, and also we talked about the business models. What's the right business model for introducing the service? So one major impact of healthcare is when you start, and this is started now, we're talking about the digital hospital concept, for example, when it comes to healthcare facility, is how to make the clinical and non-clinical work talk to each other. For ages, they were separated. You always have your medical devices and clinical platforms. They don't talk to your building systems. The smartness is how to make these two things talk together. And why do you need them to talk together? Because you need to serve the patient journey, how to handle the patient journey from the moment that they think, I want to go to a healthcare facility, so how I'm going to do my booking? Shall I call? Shall I mobile app or go to portal? Or I go and wait there in a long queue, okay, which is not a pleasant experience. So if you look at the healthcare system with all the challenges around it, so you have many challenges in delivering service to healthcare. One of them is patient satisfaction and patient processing time. The other aspect is safety and infection control, for example. Where one example I want to refer to from integration perspective and infection control, that without actually investment, you can do an impact. And I think Chris will agree with me on that aspect. It's basically, how do you take an action from building management system when there is an infection detected in any zone in a hospital.
Okay.
How to send an immediate order to your BMS system, to the HVAC system, to actually create the airflow in the ducting, so you don't have this spread and you isolate this area, and also the access control and all of these things. So this doesn't need any system. It just need an integration with a small investment.
Goes back to the data.
Yeah.
So when you go to the hospital and you have a medical unified record, it pulls out all the data and it recognizes you from your iris or from your smart ID or whatever, and then your experience is different. It applies to education. So the integration between the smart campus concept or the smart hospital is the same. It's a smart real estate that's integrated with a vertical industry purpose. So a smart campus for education is the same. You go in as a student and everything revolves around you within the campus because simply the systems are talking to each other. Well, I'd like us to use the next minutes maybe to get some feedback
Yes. I guess some points we cover public-private partnership. Fadi, you cover the role of telecos. Yusuf, would you like to talk about livability, city livability, and how planning and
I think we should just give back the time to the, if we only have 4 minutes.
So let's have some question, please. Yes, here.
I think we can be available after the session too, if you'd like to talk to us as a group.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I also want to make a question to somebody in the audience.
Hi.
Yes, please.
Yeah. I'm Mohammed Shadi. I'm senior in mechatronics engineering. When we talk about smart cities, there is something important that comes to my mind. I was talking about with a friend a few days ago. Cities is, you mentioned that it's a living thing or a living being. So a city, it's about identity. And the city's identity reflects on us, and when it's also about civilization. Like when we talk about the Roman civilization, we think about Roman cities, old cities, and theaters. And it's about social behavior. So my question is, how do people that work on social cities, how do they integrate people from social sciences background with engineers and IT people or whatever?
Please,
And that's it.
who will take this?
Yeah. I think they don't do that much today. It's in its infancy. I've seen success stories where the human first aspect is there, but I'll give again an example of how some cities chose happiness as a theme, and what goes beyond this theme is a lot of study around what drives happiness and how can an integrated system in a hospital be related to your exact happiness meter. These things exist today, but they're still in their experimental moods. I would say that more research needs to be done, and I haven't seen cities where the focus has been integrating social sciences and people feedback. I've seen more, let's say, approaches with technology, trying to focus on technology first and then impacting and transferring it to the people. I don't know if
Chris, you would like to comment?
Yeah,
on this?
I think you raise a great point, and it really goes back to the plan, and you've got to involve the citizens to try to, have the voice of their customer being involved in these plans and strategies and implementations. And what you're starting to see, and it's not very broad spread, is the fact that many of the mobile apps are being developed for the citizens to have that connection. And you'll start to see, some cities, New York, Link, NYC, for example, digital signage kiosks that really focus on things, information from these kiosks that's going on in their local area, plus weather, Wi-Fi access, and things like that. But you raise a great point, and it's something that I don't think has been addressed as well as it needs to.
Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you very much for this informative discussions. My question is regarding two challenges facing implementing smart cities. The first challenge, I am seeing the security cycle is coming back with IT. again. So this is big challenge, default passwords, that the common problems we already experienced 15 years ago still is coming now with IoT and how to overcome this challenge. This is the first question from security angle. The second question regarding the OT part. Smart city, when you are talking about smart city, you are talking about also OT and IT. So the I believe the digital transformation, you cannot do the digital transformation before integrating or before merging or before, I don't know, keep IT and OT together. So how, for example, Dubai or smart cities in the now implemented, they overcome these big challenges. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Chris?
That's a really good point also. I mean, if you look at smart cities, it's really a combination of operational technology and information technology. And to me, more of the operational technology is in that outside world. It's the sensors, it's the controls, gathering them little bits of data, and then it's I call it front haul. It goes back to some access point and then back haul over a network or cellular. But the integration really takes place on those platforms, where the platforms ingest this real data and then combine it with legacy information and unstructured data like video, and try to figure out how to deliver better value. But the thing that wasn't addressed in the cybersecurity session is if you've got all these OT things out there, like a simple pressure sensor on a fire hydrant to know if there's water there, and it's at the right pressure, so if there's a fire they can put it out, how do you keep that from getting hacked? Because you can't physically protect it. It's on the ground, so it's a big issue.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, of course, security is always a challenge. Actually, I mean, I do agree that the IoT created more, I would say, fear from security aspects. But I think when we talk about security, let's forget the technology part. It is the way actually when you design your security strategy for smart city, you need to consider both aspects, the technological part, of course, but also the processes and policies that you need to put in place. So it's a complete program you need to create together. You cannot keep them separate. Talking also about the smart city itself, so it's the digital transformation program that you have to create. You need to address, as I said, the human aspect of it, the change management aspect, the processes and everything. Sometimes you need to make decisions like changing people. You don't have the right people with the right skills within this operation. So this is a very, I would say, bold action that you need to take sometimes in terms of like being successful in delivering smart city. You've referred to Dubai example, and Dubai is a very good success. And I've been talking to many, I would say, international industry experts. They came to forums before and everything, and they all have agreed on the same thing. Dubai is a success story today because things has been driven top down on a government level, and the decision-making process was not complicated like other parts of the world, definitely. But there was a clear strategy from the head of the environment that we are going in this direction, of course, with some guidelines. There was a committee that had created, and Yusuf can talk more about, he was part of this program, about how this has been created. And they have addressed all the different aspects, not only the technological part, because the message was that they want to create a happy city, not a smart city. And to make it happy is not only by providing technology, but also to consider the other aspects. And one of the important things, and you know more than me about it, is the people that you get on board for this program. If you look at the office, the Smart Dubai office has been created with all this young, highly educated, open-minded people. They have been brought to leadership positions to take responsibility of creating this program. So in the strategy of creating or changing cities to be a smart city, you have to consider these aspects. Operational aspects, definitely, human aspects. The HR part of it is a big topic that you need to address it. And technology, I would say, of course, is important, but comes at the end.
I would just urge you to look at the
Yusuf, let's
concept
take
of resilience.
last question from the floor, then we'll come back to your point.
I'm not talking, I'm just asking, I'm telling him as a
okay, sorry.
resilience, city resilience is a theme you would want to look at. So how to keep a city not just secure, but resilient towards any infrastructure or IT attacks. and I actually wanted to ask Jafar. Jafar, كيفك?
Jafar.
Give him the microphone. Jafar. This is not staged. Jafar, خليه يجي. طب تعال هون تعال. Come. Jafar, I want to ask you.
Welcome, Jafar.
هلا you when you want to see Amman become a smart city, what comes to your mind? How would you define Amman as a smart city? What's your dream for Amman?
Very interesting.
What's your dream for Amman to become a smart city?
My dream for Amman, let's say, to be a developed city where like each department or sector you will find technology. Like for example, you go for the bank, for example, you'll find it all like with robots and everything works with technology. So some people say that in 2030 or that period, 50% of the jobs will disappear. So my dream.
Tell us about your school. How would you like your school to be smart, for instance? Is your school smart?
Well, for now it is, but I think for later it will be very traditional and old. So in the future there won't be any teacher.
Really?
Only computers will teach the students and robots.
Oof.
So when they look, so our grandsons will when they look at the past, they will say, "Oh, it was very traditional. Oh,
Yes.
come on."
And hospitals, when you go to the doctor, do you feel you have a smart experience today?
Yes, like there was in the session of VR, that there's a doctor that uses VR with his.
Here? in Amman?
Unfortunately, no. But
Where?
let's be
Where?
optimistic. So it could happen in Amman. And for example, the video that the conference started with, I hope that it really happens here in Jordan, because technology is very important. Our whole life is depending on technology.
Okay.
So technology is very important, and it has something that is special. When it comes to any sector, it develop it. So not like the others. For example, if you bring agriculture, it won't develop a lot
In
the
agriculture?
medical sector, but technology helps all of the sectors.
صح.
So back to your question.
Yes.
Jafar, we are out of time.
Please. I asked
Thanks,
specifically about
Jafar.
Amman.
Yeah.
Jafar.
Amman.
Today, your experience in Amman and your dream for Amman to become smart.
I hope that there.
With 2 words, Jafar, please.
So
We know about technology. We want your experience on Amman.
maybe I hope that there won't be the traditional jobs,
Okay, jobs, there is streets, there is hospitals, there is schools. Let me help you.
and it will be like smart city.
Yes.
So everything is controlled by computers.
Great.
So I think that the new jobs will be all related to programming. I hope that I see a man in with the best cities in the world that are developed technology.
Inshallah.
We all hope so, Jafar. Thanks, Jafar. Thanks, Chris, Yusuf, Fadi, and big thanks for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much to the panel and
I'm so sorry.
naturally the Jaffa show as well. Right.